Hey there, Heather, ho there, Chef Gunner Diamond, welcome you to yet another Cutter Top 10 video, and we're going back to the NBA with the Toronto Raptors. Not really the Toronto Raptors in a sense, but with a basketball video, of course, that's how I'm describing it. Today, we're going to be looking at the top 10 NBA players to wear my magic number in the NBA, and that's number, as I hiccup, number 33. I am fond with the number 33. Fuck, why am I hiccuping? Anyway, I'm fond of the number 33 and how good players have been because, I'm hockey 33 with Patrick Waugh, baseball 33 with Larry Walker, football 33 Sammy Ball, and then, of course, NBA 33. You have the legends. So we're going to look at 10 players who wore number 33, who are known for wearing number 33 in a sense, and ranking them. Number 10 is Danny Manning of the LA Clippers. Well, I know he wore 25 with the Clippers, but he wore 33 in some of his games. But yeah, Danny Manning was an icon from the University of Kansas, led them to the 1988 NCAA championship game against Oklahoma. Known as Danny the Miracles, the Jayhawks did it, Rock Chalk Jayhawk, and then he became the number one draft pick by the Clippers in the 1988 draft. Of course, the Clippers were run terribly and all that, but yeah, Danny Manning would be known as kind of a bust, but he was serviceable. He really was. Number 9 is Marc Gasol. I know Raptor fans will hate on me because Marc Gasol wore number 33 for the 2019 champion Toronto Raptors, and he's an icon. But I mean, compared to the other guys on this list, I mean, they're legends. They're like a lot of Hall of Famers, too, or could have been Hall of Famers. But the fact of the matter is that, for all it's worth, Marc Gasol was a pretty good player. I mean, he was a star defensive player for the Memphis Grizzlies, and then the Raptors ended up picking him up at the trade deadline in 2019 and needed to give up Jonas Valanciunas, the guy that I basically said was, what the fuck did we get this Valanciunas guy? Number 5 overall in 2011. Well, after 5 years, he basically shut me up. But yeah, they wanted Valanciunas. Okay, we'll take Marc Gasol, great defensive player. Okay, and it worked. Marc Gasol was the main center for the Raptors. Well, I think Siakam too, but yeah, Marc Gasol was the piece of the puzzle. He knew his way through the Lakers and the Grizzlies. So yeah, can't blame him. Speaking of former Raptors, number 8 is also another Raptor. His name, Antonio Davis. So Antonio Davis was this big rebounding defender for the Indiana Pacers and all that, and the Knicks, I think too. But yeah, he was a Knick, he was a Bull, he was a Pacer. Antonio Davis was traded from Indiana to Toronto for the what of Toronto's draft pick, high schooler Jonathan Bender. Can you imagine that the Raptors drafted this guy from high school and then the Pacers basically wanted him, saying, "Oh, we'll give you Antonio Davis." What a mistake! What a maroon! I don't think Larry Bird was part of this. I hope he wasn't. And yes, Larry Bird's on this list. But the fact of the matter is that, the Raptors got Antonio Davis for Jonathan Bender. Amazing. One of the most lopsided trades in NBA history. So, yeah, I think we'll do that. But the fact of the matter is that it was just amazing, And Antonio did well for the Raptors for a few years before moving on to the Knicks. But you know what? Come on. Antonio Davis is a Raptor. Number 7 is Grant Hill. He would have been much higher on this list, but he didn't really have a career. He was marred by injury. Grant Hill was this guy from the University of Duke. He came from a good pedigree because his father, Calvin Hill, was a running back for the Dallas Cowboys, winning a few titles in the 70s. But yeah, Grant Hill knew it. He was the guy who threw the baseball pass to Christian Laettner for the shot in 1992, which was amazing and all that. But yeah, Grant Hill was also good. In 94, he was on that team that lost to Arkansas in the title game. However, the Pistons thought he had promise, so they picked him up in the draft instead of a Michigan guy, I wish it was. But anyway, Grant Hill was named co-rookie of the year with Jason Kidd, and he was pretty good, for the Pistons. And then he went to Orlando, enticed him with a massive free agency deal, which ended up costing them dearly. There's another a big mistake by Orlando, like a player wearing number 33. You'll get to see him later. But anyway, Grant Hill was just injury prone. Orlando basically didn't get their money back, and Grant Hill just slipped off. Number 6 is a star for the ABA and NCAA. His name, David Thompson. David Thompson came from NC State, the school in 1974 that shocked the world by beating UCLA in the semifinals, the Final Four, meaning that for the first time since 1966, there would be a school winning a national title game that isn't named UCLA. Yeah, him and his afro and his NC State team that included future Major League closer Tim Stoddard. He did his job, and Thompson was the big guy there. Well, that's not a few others, but yeah, he went to the ABA, played for the Denver Nuggets, won the first ever dunk contest. Of course, the ABA didn't do the dunk contest for All Star Weekend until 1984, which was pathetic as fuck. But that's me. So yeah, so David Thompson was a big name player, and yeah, he didn't do too badly in the NBA, but his flair was in the ABA in the NCAA. So I can't really blame him. Number 5 is aka Alonzo Mourning, who could have been a Toronto Raptor. I'll explain later. Anyhow, so Alonzo Mourning was this guy from Georgetown, great center, and Charlotte decided to pick him up. And in his rookie year in 1993, wasn't his rookie year, second or third rookie year, he scored a game-winning bucket in Game 3 against the Boston Celtics to sweep the Celtics in the first round, when first rounds were best of 5, and sent the Charlotte Hornets in their first playoff series, mind you, to the second round. They lost, but Alonzo Mourning's shot would be big. He would be a Hornets icon, then traded to the Heat for Kendall Gill. And yeah, Alonzo Mourning went from Charlotte hero to a Miami hero, being the big center that was trying to counter a powerful New York Knick who is on this list. But the fact is that Alonzo Mourning was good defensively. A couple times he won Defensive Player of the Year. Unfortunately, though, he almost lost his career because of a kidney disease and all that while playing for Miami. Then he ended up bouncing to the Nets, and the Nets had Alonzo Mourning until they traded his rights to Toronto for Vince Carter. That was when Vince Carter basically decided not to dunk anymore and basically get himself out of Toronto, although Vince Carter's mother had something to do with it too. I bet dollars and donuts. Alonzo Mourning could have been a Raptor. It would have been nice to see him in a Raptor uniform for at least one game, but he freaking said no. It pisses me off. It's just like Chris Paul, because CP3 was traded to the Raptors. His rights were traded to the Raptors. I wish we'd seen one Toronto Raptors game and then get rid of then he could leave. But nevertheless, Alonzo Mourning was good and all that. Number 4 is, the New York Knicks guy, Patrick Ewing. Patrick Ewing was a great player for Georgetown, was part of the 82 team that lost the national championship to North Carolina thanks to the mistake by Fred Brown passing to the wrong guy, not Sleeping Floyd, but James Worthy. Although Ewing 2 years later would win the title in 1984 and all that. Patrick Ewing almost went to the NBA draft in 1984. He could have. He was a junior. He was allowed to. But unfortunately, his mother basically installed the thing that you're going to get your degree. And Alonzo agreed. So Ewing agreed and went back to Georgetown for his senior year. Georgetown was dominant, but then somehow in some freaking way, they lost to Villanova in the finals, 66-64. So because of how good Patrick Ewing was and how teams were tanking for Hakeem Olajuwon the previous year, the NBA came up with this thing called the draft lottery, in which the 7 non-NBA playoff teams would had their logos placed in an envelope, spun 7 times, and then David Stern would grab the logo and put it in the one slot. So they did that type of draft lottery for many years and all that. Unfortunately, though, of course, it was tainted because there were several factors to the fact that the Knicks were going to get Patrick Ewing because, the Knicks were flat and Bernard King was injury prone. So basically, the Knicks got Patrick Ewing with the number 1 pick, and a lot of people said it was on purpose because New York, with the big basketball market, and kind of basketball was back in New York. A lot of things happened. One major thing was that if you watched the guy who puts the 7 envelopes in. He puts 3 in gently, and then the 4th one he flings it against the glass side. That probably was the dog ear, and then he puts the other 3 down pat. So anyway, Patrick Ewing did work well for the Knicks. He did get them to the '94 finals against Houston, and he almost took down Hakeem Olajuwon, who was his rival at the University of Houston. So anyway, Ewing was okay. He got them to the '99 final. Well, he didn't really play in the '99 final because he was injured. His injuries would be consistent. Orlando still wanted Ewing to bring things back, but like Grant Hill, that blew up in their face. He went on to play for Seattle as well. Speaking of Seattle, number 3 is Scottie Pippen. You'll be thinking, Scottie Pippen was not a Seattle Supersonic? Well, he could have been a Seattle Supersonic. So anyway, Central Arkansas had Scottie Pippen, and he went to the 1987 NBA draft. He was picked 8th overall by the Seattle Supersonics. So anyway, yeah, the Seattle Supersonics had Scottie Pippen. They drafted him, and then they traded him to the Bulls for Olden Polynice because they needed a center. Polynice did not do well for Seattle. I think he was better for Golden State. Well, unfortunately, though, Scottie Pippen proved Seattle wrong by trading him to Chicago, as he and Michael Jordan led the Bulls to 6 NBA titles. So that was big, number 33. Pippen was, of course, the guy who had to be the main guy in Chicago once MJ retired, for many reasons. Of course, everyone thought that MJ retired because of his gambling problems, but also it's due to the fact that his father had died, and basically MJ lost his momentum. Yeah, he lost his main squeeze, if you will. I don't know why I said that, but anyway, yeah, Scottie Pippen was kind of a diva in a sense. Well, he wanted to be with better than MJ. Understood. Pippen decided to leave for Houston, then Portland after Chicago. Well, Chicago basically were going to dumpster fire thanks a lot Jerry Reinsdorf. Pippen would try to find success with Houston and Portland, could not. Although in 2000 he was close, but the Lakers won Game 7 in that conference final. Number 2 is Larry Bird. You'll be thinking, are you nuts? Larry Bird at number 2? Well, there's a reason. Number 1 is number 1 for a reason. Anyway, remember, this is to where number 33. This is not the top 10 players of all time. That'll be later. But yeah, Larry Bird was a good guy. Larry Legend, as they call him. Guy who actually would have played for Indiana, but he didn't like Bobby Knight's system, so he left and worked as a garbage man, and then Indiana State picked him up on scholarship. Excuse me. So yeah, he played for Indiana State, and somehow, some way, they were like 30 plus and 0. They got to the Final Four. They took on Michigan State in the highest rated college basketball final ever, and this still to this day. It was Larry Bird and his Sycamores versus Magic Johnson and, to a lesser effect, Mike Berkovich and the Michigan State Spartans. The reason why I say Berkovich is because he's from Windsor, Ontario. Nevertheless, Larry Bird lost to Magic Johnson in the thing. Well, Bird was actually drafted by Boston in 1978. They had something called a futures pick and all that, but Bird still had 1 more year of eligibility left in college. So yeah, so Larry Bird was still a Boston Celtic. The Celtics fleeced Golden State for Robert Parrish and the number 3 pick that ended up being Kevin McHale. The big 3 in Boston, winning all those titles, being cool and all that. He had a great career and all that. Unfortunately, in the 90s, injuries would hurt him in a sense, and he had to retire. But yeah, it was just amazing to see. But yeah, Larry Bird was an icon. And yes, even though that he was a Pacers coach and all that, Larry Bird was welcomed back to Boston with open arms. And numero uno is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. See, there's a reason why Larry Bird wasn't number 1. His Lakers legend, well, rival, kind of Magic, but yeah, another Lakers rival, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. So Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Martin Lou Alcindor, before he converted to Islam, ended up being a legend for UCLA in college and all that, barely losing. In 1969, Milwaukee, yes, I said 69. Milwaukee is the champion, got the number one pick and took Lou Alcindor, obviously. Phoenix could have taken him, but lost the draft, the lottery coin flip, and had to take Neil Walk. So anyway, yeah, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar helped Milwaukee win the 1971 title. They went to the 72 final against the Lakers and fell out. But Kareem was not happy in Milwaukee, saying, "There's nothing really for me in Milwaukee." So he forced a trade to either New York or Los Angeles. LA decided to take him and trade away Junior Bridgman, among others, which actually worked out because Bridgman was a serviceable Milwaukee Buck, I'll tell you that much right now. But the fact of the matter is that Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was a legend and all that. He was an airplane, the guy who told that kid in the cockpit, yelling at him and all that. But yeah, Abdul-Jabbar was iconic. He had the iconic goggles afterwards, like in the mid 80s. And he knew what he had to do. So yeah, he was a legend. He had the points record till LeBron just had to fucking ruin it for everyone. But that's just my opinion. But yeah, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar definitely is the best. My number 33. And that's the first player I thought about with 33. Well, Larry Bird was number 2. But anyway, that's all I gotta say. I'm Jeff Diamond. Adieu.